All right, lovely. So we are recording. So if anyone else joins, they can just join in where they are. So we'll make a start on our backs, as we always do, in a comfortable position, just something that feels good in your body. So maybe bringing your knees up towards the ceiling, maybe letting them support one another, maybe just bringing them out to the sides for a reclined bound angle pose, or maybe extending them out long in front of you. Just listening to your body, finding something that feels good for you. Drawing your hands out either side of you, rolling your shoulders underneath you, and just taking a moment here, maybe closing your eyes, just drawing your attention inwards, really trying to notice your body, maybe notice your mind. Try to just acknowledge how you feel today. Maybe noticing any stiff bits or sore bits. Beginning to really send the breath to those areas. And then thinking about sending your breath to the rest of your body. Really trying to direct all of your energy to every part of your body, your muscles, your skeleton. And just imagine breathing into those places. And as you become more aware of your breath, just deepening the inhalations and slowing down the exhalations. Just trying to breathe a little deeper and with a little more intention with every breath. Just allowing your body to let go of anything as you exhale and come into this present moment now. And then we'll take a few breaths all together here, breathing in through the nose, filling the whole of the lungs from the bottom all the way up to the top. And then just let out a big sigh through the mouth, letting go of any tension as you do. Taking another deep breath in here through the nose, filling the whole of the lungs, the whole of the body. And then again, a big sigh out through the mouth. One more deep breath in here through the nose. And this time, as you exhale, just trying to let that breath out slowly and with control, maybe through the nose. And then taking another deep breath in, just opening your eyes. Maybe trying to keep that breath going through the nose, trying to breathe with your tummy throughout today's class, reminding your body to rest, digest, breathe nice and deeply. So on your next inhalation, we'll just bring our arms up overhead, reach behind us, interlace our fingers and turn the palms of our hands to the back of the room. And just breathe nice and deeply here for a moment, just opening up the shoulders, the back, the wrists. Trying to just settle down onto your mat through the rest of your body. And just noticing which bits of your spine are touching the mat. And your next exhalation, unentwining the fingers and bringing them back down beside your body. Just letting the palms come up towards the ceiling. Bring your knees up towards the ceiling and just walking your feet a little bit wider than hip width apart, maybe mat width apart. Taking a deep breath in here. And as you exhale, just letting the knees fall over towards the left, just opening up the right side of our body gently here. Don't worry about where the knees get to, just breathing into that right side body. Just trying to soften the face and the neck and the shoulders. And then on your next inhalation, drawing the knees back up towards the ceiling. And as you exhale, releasing them over towards the right, opening up the left side of your body this time. Again, don't worry about where those knees get to, just breathing into this pose in your body. On your next inhalation, drawing your knees back up towards the ceiling. And as you exhale, just lifting the feet up towards the ceiling. Just pausing here for a few moments, just encouraging that blood to flow the other way. Really just giving your heart a moment of rest before we start moving a little bit more. Just breathing nice and deeply. You can bend your legs here as much as you like to. Just trying to find that breath coming from the tummy. So finding your tummy finding your tummy expand as you inhale. Sorry, can't get my words out. And soften as you exhale. Just really trying to breathe a little deeper with every breath. Again, maybe experimenting with breathing just through your nose. And just really tuning into your breath in your body. And on your next exhalation, just drawing your feet down, your knees in towards your chest, keeping that tailbone glued to the mat. Maybe just rocking side to side here, just massaging your back slightly. And coming back to center, releasing the feet back down to the mat and the hands down either side of you. We'll begin to draw our attention to our core area. So kind of thinking about our deep core, not just our abs, but all of those stabilizing muscles that keep us standing. We'll come into our first bridge. So as we inhale, just beginning to lift that pelvis up off the mat, really pushing through the feet evenly. And just beginning to draw your attention to your glutes, maybe giving them a prod, your buttock muscles, just reminding them to wake up a little, giving us support through the rest of today's class. Just breathing nice and deeply here, still trying to keep that breath nice and deep from your tummy. Just one more deep breath here. And as we exhale, slowly lowering back down to the mat, taking a deep breath in, a deep breath out. And then again, as we inhale, just drawing that awareness to the core first, and then lifting your pelvis slowly off the mat, really taking care to keep both those hip bones nice and even. Doesn't need to be too high, it can just be a couple of centimeters off the mat. Just breathing nice and deeply here, beginning to activate those glutes. And just reminding ourselves to undo some of that time we spend sitting in this pose. Breathing nice and deeply. Maybe beginning to feel those glutes wake up a little. If not, you can still give them a bit of a prod. Just tuning into your body. One more deep breath here. And then again, as you exhale, slowly lowering back down to the mat. Again, taking a deep breath in here, maybe a big sigh out. And then we'll begin to engage those core muscles again for one last bridge. As we inhale, lifting the pelvis up off the mat. Again, just a low bridge, doesn't have to be too high. Just softening the face and the neck and the shoulders, really engaging that torso, those glutes and those legs. Breathing nice and deeply. One more breath here. And then exhaling, releasing all the way back down to the mat. And maybe hugging those knees in again, just rocking side to side. Just releasing for a moment. Good job. Lovely. Then we'll bring our feet back down to the mat. We'll just continue to warm up our core a little bit, reminding it to be active so we stay supported in all of our postures today. So we'll interlace the fingers, bring the hands behind the head, and just release the head back into those fingers. So we're really trying to release any tension in the neck here. We're not trying to hold on to anything in the neck. And then as you inhale, squeeze the elbows towards each other. As you exhale, seeing if you can just lift the shoulders up off the mat, but it doesn't have to be a big movement. And trying to really use your tummy muscles to draw your shoulders up off the mat. Inhaling, lowering back down. And exhaling, lifting straight back up again off the mat. Trying not to breathe while your shoulders are up off the mat. And then as you inhale, slowly lowering back down. Once more as we exhale, lifting those shoulders up off the mat. And just pausing for a moment, seeing if you can suspend that breath. And just noticing your body in that moment. How does it feel? And then as you inhale, lowering back down and sighing it out at the bottom here. Just releasing, maybe letting your elbows come out to the sides and breathing nice and deeply for a moment. We'll bring the knees back up towards the chest. We'll rock and roll up to a seated position. So take as many rock and rolls as you want to get there. And then once you're in a seated position, we'll roll over our knees and come into our tabletop pose. Taking care as always to set this pose up, hands under shoulders, nice spread fingers, really trying to push through all fingers evenly, really supporting the wrists, knees under hips, just finding that length through the back of the body, maybe looking up towards the front of the room. And then drawing your gaze down to the top of the mat. Just pausing here, trying to draw that tummy button up towards the spine, gathering all that energy. And then we'll take a few rounds of cat-cow. So as we inhale, lowering the tummy, lifting the crown of the head and the tailbone. Exhale, rounding the back. So really trying to push the mat away here as we round the back. And just taking it nice and slow, moving between the poses in time to your own breath. Just begin to notice what happens to your gaze as you move between the two poses, where you're looking. Breathing nice and deeply. So today's class is called Shift. So the idea is we can shift our perspective on the mat, which helps us to shift our perspective off the mat. So sometimes looking at things from a different angle can help us find a different way of doing things. So bearing that in mind, maybe try your cat-cows, but maybe look down as you come into cow and look up as you come into cat, and just notice if that makes it feel any different in your body. Don't worry if it feels a little confusing. That's actually quite good for you, good for our bodies, our brains. Still try to keep the head moving in time to the poses. And just let your gaze, your eyes move. See if you can isolate those two different movements. Just breathing nice and deeply the whole time. And then on your next inhalation, coming back to your center, back to a nice neutral spine. And as you exhale, we'll just tuck the toes and send the tailbone back and up for downward facing dog. Breathing nice and deeply here, bending the knees if you need to, taking any movements that you might like, maybe walking out the heels, moving the hips side to side, maybe a combination of both, maybe shaking out the head. Just making this your practice today, listening to your body. Again, taking a rest at any point if you need to come into child's pose or tabletop, feel free. This is about yoga serving your body, your mind today. And then when you're ready, coming to a place of stillness and just pausing for a moment, making sure the head and neck are nice and loose, checking that those elbows are facing insides of the elbows are facing each other or the top of the mat. And then as you exhale, we'll just roll forward on the toes and slowly lower the knees back down onto the mat for tabletop pose. We'll draw the hands down onto, or the elbows down onto the mat underneath the shoulders and bring the hands together, either in prayer or you can interlace the fingers here. And then we'll just puff up the chest here, find some space between the shoulder blades and release the head in between the hands. Just shake it out here. Maybe while you're shaking out your head, you can also just move your jaw a little bit. Just stretching, yawning maybe. And then inhaling, coming back up to our tabletop. So you inhale, and then exhaling for another downward facing dog. Pushing that mat away, looking behind you, between your feet, between your legs, maybe at your toes, just experimenting with what feels good for you. And then on your next inhalation, lifting your left leg up off the mat, keeping the toes pointing down, the pelvis nice and neutral. And exhaling, bending that knee. Just beginning to draw some circles with that left leg in the air, trying to draw circles with the knee, just opening up the hip a little here, breathing nice and deeply. You can always do this on all fours if that feels better for you. And then whichever way you've been going, just do a couple of circles, go in the opposite direction. And then on your next inhalation, extending that left leg out long behind you, maybe squeezing that left glute to try and lift it a little higher. Then as you exhale, seeing if you can step it up to your left hand, dropping the right knee and coming up into our low lunge. Lovely. Squeezing that right glute, opening up the right side of that body, maybe bringing the arms up overhead, reaching up as high as we can through those fingertips, making ourselves nice and tall. And your next exhalation, folding over that front foot and stepping back into a plank, maybe walking the feet away a little bit more, or half plank or tabletop to suit you. And your next exhalation, dropping the knees, lowering slowly down to the mat, squeezing those shoulder blades together, untucking the toes. We'll inhale up into our baby cobra. So it doesn't have to be very high. We're just trying to use those back muscles to really lift the shoulders and the head. Could be a centimeter, could be a few, it doesn't matter. Just breathing nice and deeply here. Imagine a wave going through your body as you inhale, maybe lifting up, looking up a little. As you exhale, softening, lowering your gaze slightly. Just moving gently as you breathe here. On your next exhalation, releasing all the way down to the mat, softening for a moment. And as you inhale, tuck the toes, push up halfway. And then exhale, downward facing dog. Again, remember this is your practice, so taking any movements that you might like here. Breathing nice and deep, releasing that head, maybe shaking side to side. Just double checking those insides of the elbows are facing the top of the mat, protecting the shoulder. And coming to a place of stillness, taking a deep breath in and extending the right leg out behind you. Exhaling, bending the knee. Beginning to draw little circles on this side, just warming up that hip. Breathing nice and deeply still, being aware of what's going on in the rest of your body as you think about also moving your hip. Whichever way you've been going, just beginning to draw circles the opposite direction, noticing how it makes you feel. And then inhaling, extending that right leg nice and long. And exhaling, stepping it up to meet the right hand, dropping the left knee. Coming up into our low lunge on this side. Squeezing that left glute, really opening up the left side. And then bringing the arms up overhead, reaching up, trying to make ourselves tall as we ground down through our feet. Exhaling, releasing over that front foot and stepping back into a plank. Finding a moment here, trying to find that nice length in the back body, gauging the core and the glutes. And then exhaling, lowering the knees and coming all the way down onto your tummy. Untucking the toes, squeezing the shoulder blades together, and inhaling up into a cobra. Pausing here, breathing here. Again, maybe finding that little wave inside your body, moving between the two. And then on your next exhalation, releasing back down onto the mat. Pausing here for a moment, taking a deep breath. Just recentering yourself. And then inhaling, tucking the toes, pushing up halfway. And exhaling, downward facing dog or tabletop to suit you. Really pushing through those fingertips, protecting those wrists, finding that length in the body. And your next exhalation, rounding the back and seeing if we can tiptoe our feet up towards our hands, bending the knees and just releasing here in a ragdoll, maybe keeping the hands on the ground, just swaying side to side, maybe bringing hands to opposite elbow, or maybe even stroking out the back of the neck, just trying to release any tension down towards the ground, and just finding some nice movement in our bodies. On your next inhalation, slowly beginning to roll up to standing, one vertebra at a time, trying to stack each vertebra on top of the last one, making sure your head's the last thing to come up. Taking a moment here, breathing, finding that length in the body, rooting through the feet, finding your mountain pose. And we'll inhale, bring the arms out in front of us and up overhead. And as we exhale, we'll sweep them down either side of us and into the small of our backs. So the fingers are pointing down. Squeeze the elbows together. So we're really drawing the shoulder blades together, keeping the feet hip width apart and engaging the core. We'll inhale, find a little more length. And then as we exhale, just look up slightly, squeezing those elbows together, supporting your lower back, and engaging those glutes so we don't just collapse into our lower back. Breathing nice and deeply here. And then inhaling, coming back up to standing. And exhaling, folding forward from the hips into your forward fold. Releasing all the way over when you can't keep your back flat anymore. Lovely. Pausing here for a few breaths, just really trying to fill the back body. Just gazing behind you, looking behind you, noticing the sensation of being upside down. On your next inhalation, stepping your left foot back behind you and coming up into our low lunge. Squeezing that left glute to open up that left hip flexor and really sending the energy through the back of that right heel. So we're scraping it towards the back of the mat. Inhaling, bringing those arms up overhead. And maybe exhaling, just coming over towards the left slightly. So we're leaning over towards the left, not collapsing in that left side. Still finding length through the body. Inhaling, coming back to center. And exhaling, folding over that front leg. Planting the left hand. We'll inhale, bring the right arm up, elbow first, and then the arm. Look up above us. Still engaging the legs so we're not collapsing here. Just breathing for a moment. If it feels a bit much to look up, just look down. Maybe even if you normally look up, just look down. See if that changes the pose at all for you. On your next exhalation, releasing the right hand to meet the left, looking down at your hands. And walking the hands out towards the left side of your body in line with your left leg. And just releasing here, opening up that right side of the body. Breathing nice and deeply. On your next inhalation, really squeezing that left glute, planting the left hand, and we'll scrape the right arm up overhead, reaching up, maybe opening up the body. And again, you can play around with your gaze here, look up, maybe look straight ahead towards the front of the room. On your next exhalation, lowering that that top hand, that right hand, and exhaling it, releasing it out towards the left over the top of your head. Just letting it hang heavy here. If that feels too much, you can always bring it back to the right hip. On your next exhalation, releasing the right hand down to meet the left. And inhaling, coming up to face the long edge of the mat in a wide-legged forward fold. Lovely. Bending the knees here if you need to bring your hands to the ground. And then just releasing the head, trying to let out any tension, maybe wiggling your shoulders, maybe wiggling your pelvis side to side. And then bending into that right knee, we'll walk our hands over towards the left and release here in a side lunge. Breathing nice and deeply. Inhaling, coming back to center with the pelvis and walking the hands round to the back of the mat, bringing the left leg to face the back of the mat. And bending this left leg as much as we need to here, planting the hands either on your fingertips or flat on the mat. We'll inhale and just try and find some length through the spine, bring that right heel off the mat. So you exhale, seeing if we can just lift that right leg up off the mat, really squeezing the right glute to lift the leg, keeping that left leg bent, maybe extending it out long a little. And just see if we can find an L split here. Lovely. Breathing nice and deeply. And just looking behind you, rounding the back slightly. Exhaling, stepping the right foot to meet the left and folding over for a forward fold. Maybe wiggling the hips side to side here, the pelvis. Just moving your body. And then inhaling, sweeping the arms out beside you and up overhead, facing the back of the mat. Exhaling, mountain pose. Lovely. Do the same thing in reverse. So we'll inhale, sweep the arms up overhead. Find that length through the body. And then as we exhale, bring the hands to the small of the back, palms pressing into the back, fingers facing down. Squeezing those elbows towards each other, squeezing the shoulder blades, activating those glutes and keeping that core engaged. Inhaling, finding a little more length. Exhaling, opening up towards the top of the room, bending the knees a little if you need to here. But just trying to keep your body active as if you're expanding in your chest. And your next inhalation coming back to center, back to neutral. As you exhale, folding from that hip crease into a forward fold, looking behind you. Maybe shimmying it out a bit here, looking side to side, walking up the feet. Just pausing for a moment, breathing into that back body, breathing into the back of the lungs. And on your next inhalation, stepping the right foot back behind you and coming up into a low lunge on this side. And squeezing that right glute to open up the right hip flexor, drawing that energy from the left foot back towards, well, back behind us is probably the best thing to say here. Inhaling the arms up overhead, finding that length in the body. And maybe as you exhale, just leaning over towards your right, opening up the left side of the body here. Inhaling, coming back to center, and exhaling over that front foot or that left foot. Planting the right hand, we'll inhale the left arm up for a twist here. Maybe looking up at your left hand, or maybe turning it to look down at your right hand. And just noticing how your gaze can change how the pose feels in your body. Exhaling, releasing the left hand to meet the right hand and walking the hands out to the right side of your body in line with your right knee. Releasing over here, really trying to soften the face and the neck, opening up that left side and breathing. Inhaling, finding a little bit of lift in the body, squeezing that right glute, planting the right hand. We'll bring the left arm up overhead, gazing towards the back of the room now. Maybe looking up if that feels better for you, but just playing around. And on your next exhalation, releasing that left hand back down towards your body and extending it over the top of your head towards the side of the room. Still squeezing that right glute, breathing. And your next exhalation, releasing the left hand down to the mat, twisting both feet to face the long edge, coming into a wide-legged forward fold on this side. Bending the knees if you need to. I'm just trying to release here for a moment. Then you can take a ragdoll kind of pose here and bring the hands to the elbows, swaying it out. Or keep your hands on the mat. Bend your knees. Do what feels good for you. And we'll bend into our left leg this time and walk the hands over towards the right foot, opening up the left side of the lower back. And really trying to sink our weight back behind us. Just looking between the legs, gazing behind us. Breathing into that left side of the lung. Inhale, coming back up to a wide-legged stance and walking the hands round to frame the right foot, lifting the left heel off the mat. Just pausing here for a moment, bending that right knee, finding some length in the spine here, maybe coming up onto the fingertips, just trying to find some core engagement. Inhaling, seeing if we can lift that left leg up behind us, using the left glute to lift the leg. Toes are pointing down for an L split. Maybe beginning to straighten that right leg, but there's no pressure to do that. You can also just float your left foot on the mat if that feels better for you. Exhaling, see if we can release the head a little for a moment, maybe shake it out. And then inhaling, coming back up, looking down. Exhaling, stepping the left foot to meet the right and folding over, releasing into a forward fold. Again, enjoying a gentle inversion with the head below the heart, maybe swaying. And then trying to sit back, so bending your knees, sending your tailbone behind you, and walking your hands forward. Just seeing if we can move the pelvis side to side as we reach forward. And bringing your hands underneath you, we'll walk the feet back into a downward facing dog. Lovely. Pausing here for a breath. Engaging core here, keeping your body active in this pose. Your next inhalation, rounding the back, rolling forward into plank or all fours, maybe stepping the feet back slightly. Engaging the glutes, engaging that core. And then exhaling, lowering slowly down to the mat, dropping the knees first. And untucking the toes, bringing the hands down beside you. So the backs of the hands are on the mat either side of your pelvis. We'll come into a locust pose now. So you can either just lift the legs here or lift the torso, just lift the torso or lift both. So just listening to your body. The key thing is to not crunch into that lower back. So keeping the glutes nice and active, whichever option you choose. On your next inhalation, engaging the glutes, maybe beginning to lift the legs. Pausing as you exhale. And if you want to, you can inhale, lift the torso as well into a baby cobra. So we're lifting the legs and the torso. You can lift the hands off the mat and reach behind you. Breathing nice and deeply. If this feels a bit much, like I said, you can just do legs or torso. Let's take another couple of deep breaths here. Finding a little more length in the body. Maybe lifting up a little more as you inhale. And then exhaling, releasing down to the mat, softening the body, bringing the hands underneath your forehead and the elbows out to the sides for a crocodile pose. Shuffling the legs out as well and just pausing for a moment. Maybe closing your eyes for a moment. Really breathing into the body, into the lungs. And your next inhalation, bringing the hands back either side of you and pushing up halfway. Exhaling, downward facing dog. Breathing nice and deeply here, taking a really deep breath in and a really deep breath out. And then you can either do this next pose in downward facing dog, or if it feels like it might be a bit much, you can just lower your knees and do the same thing in tabletop, just really trying to keep that length in the spine. So whichever feels better for you in your body. Keeping the core active, keeping that spine long. Inhaling here. Then as we exhale, seeing if we can bring the right arm across underneath us and to the outside edge of the left leg. Just look out towards your left in downward facing dog. That feels like it might be a bit much on your left shoulder. Feel free to take tabletop instead. Just breathe here. Keeping that shoulder active. Gazing over towards the left. And then inhaling, bringing the right hand back to center back to downward facing dog. And exhaling, releasing the knees down onto the mat. We'll turn over towards the right. So we'll pivot on our right hand, turn over and come all the way around onto our backs, or onto our, so we're sitting, didn't explain that very well, sorry. Bringing the hands behind us, palms facing down, fingers facing the back of the mat, pressing through the toes. We're going to inhale, come up into a reverse tabletop. So you might find that you only get this far, that's fine. You might come all the way up. Wherever you are, we want to keep that spine long in the back of the neck. So imagine you've got a little ball that you're clamping underneath your chin, between your chin and your chest. Finding that length in the front of the body, squeezing those glutes to open up a little bit more. Lovely, breathing nice and deeply. We'll just hold this for a couple of breaths. And then on your next exhalation, releasing down to the mat. Coming onto your back for a moment and giving yourself a bit of a hug. Maybe rocking side to side. We'll rock and roll back up to our seated position. Roll over our legs so we're facing the back of the mat, and come up into our downward facing dog or tabletop again. Breathing nice and deeply. Finding that length in the body, that stability. Checking the insides of the elbows are facing the top of the mat, so we've really got stable shoulders here. Taking one more deep breath in. Then as you exhale, see if you can lift the left hand, crossing the body, holding onto the outside edge of the right leg and looking out towards or under the right side of your body, opening up that left shoulder, breathing nice and deeply. And you can do this in tabletop if that feels better for you. On your next inhalation, just releasing that left hand back into a downward facing dog. And exhaling, lowering the knees into our tabletop pose. Do the same thing. So we'll turn around on that left hand, pivot round. So we're facing the front of our mat, sitting down, bringing our hands behind us, our feet facing forward, keeping them hip width apart, finding that length in the upper body, squeezing the shoulder blades together, inhaling up into a reverse tabletop, being careful to not let the neck collapse here, so trying to keep that ball or that boiled egg trapped under your chin, squeezing the glutes and breathing nice and deeply. One more breath here. And then as you exhale, releasing down and lowering all the way down onto your back, hugging your knees in towards your chest, just rocking side to side if that feels good for you. Then we'll bring the knees over towards our left and roll over onto the left side of our body, extending the left arm out in front of us. Bring the right hand on top of the left hand. As we'll inhale and sweep the right arm out behind us, opening up for twist here. You can bring your arms into cactus if that feels better for you, so bending at the elbow, especially if, like me, you don't have lots of space. And then just breathing here nice and deeply, breathing into the lower back, into the hips, into the upper back. Just trying to soften your torso, your face, your neck. Twisting is really good for our spine, lengthening it and just mobilizing it So just trying to breathe into your spine just now. And then on your next inhalation, just rolling onto your back. And as you exhale, we'll roll all the way over onto our right side. We'll do the same thing. So we'll extend our right leg, right arm out long, bring the left hand on top of it. And inhale, sweep the left arm out behind us, bending the elbow if you need to into cactus. And again, just opening up the side body, working into the lower back here, the upper back, the spine. Just trying to release your head and your neck, softening into the mat. Just trying to let go of any tension. Maybe yawning or moving your jaw side to side. Just trying to stretch out. One more breath here. And then as we inhale, we'll come back to center. And as we exhale, we'll just extend our legs out long and bring our arms up overhead. You can also do this next one with your hands either side of your body if you prefer. Then we'll just walk our feet over towards the left and our head and shoulders over towards the left, opening up the right side of our body in half moon pose here. And just reaching through the fingertips, reaching through the toes, just enjoying this lengthening pose. And on your next inhalation, just coming back to center and shuffling all the way over to the other side, gluing your pelvis down. So just walking the feet over towards the right, your hands over towards the right. Just opening up that left side of the body, breathing nice and deeply, gazing up ahead. Just trying to soften every part of you. And inhaling, slowly walking your hands and your shoulders back to center, drawing your knees up towards your torso and hugging them in. You can either stay like this, just rock side to side here, or if you want to, you can take happy baby pose. So if you'd like to take happy baby pose, just bringing your the soles of your feet up towards the ceiling, bringing your first two fingers around your big toe from the inside out, just drawing them gently down towards the mat, rocking side to side here, smiling as well, of course, breathing. Then coming back to center, releasing the feet. We'll come into our Shavasana now. So if you'd like to grab yourself a jumper or a blanket or a pillow or anything to make yourself nice and comfortable, please do. And when you're ready, just coming down onto your back, bringing your arms out either side of you, and either extending your legs out long or bringing them up towards the ceiling, depending what feels good for you in your back. Just rolling your shoulders underneath you, taking any last little shuffles that you might need, but drawing your eyes to a close and drawing your attention inwards. Just really noticing every part of your body, and then noticing your breath. Maybe taking some big, deep inhalations, some long, slow exhalations, as we did at the start of the class. And then allowing your breath to return to its natural rhythm. Just letting go of any control over it. Just allowing it to flow in your body. With every inhalation, experiencing a sense of openness and growth. With every exhalation, a feeling of deep relaxation and peacefulness. With every exhalation, just letting go of any tension in your body, allowing your whole body to relax. Your feet, your legs, your hips, your hands, your arms, and your shoulders, your whole torso, and your neck, and your head. Letting your jaw relax, your forehead relax, and your whole face soften. With every breath, just letting your body melt a little further into the earth, and finding a sense of being connected and grounded, allowing everything to be just as it is. Staying in this state for a couple more minutes, just allowing your body and mind a few moments of stillness, some time to absorb the effects and benefits of today's practice. If any thoughts floated, just allowing them to float out again. Always coming back to the breath, flowing in and out of your body. Still keeping your eyes closed, just bringing some awareness back into your body, moving your fingers and your toes, maybe stretching your arms up overhead for a full body stretch. And releasing your hands back down beside you, and drawing your knees up towards the ceiling, soles of the feet to the ground. Slowly rolling over onto one side. And just pausing here, maybe making a pillow for your head with your hands. And then slowly making your way up to a seated position, bringing your hands to heart center. Beginning to rub your hands together to generate some heat. And placing them over your eyes. Just allowing your eyes to open. You gently bring your hands back to heart center. Namaste.